Hello, welcome to the latest episode of KRAD COVID Readings. I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido, here to read my short fiction for you to entertain you and try to make your pandemic palatable. In 2019, I wrote two short stories that both came out at the same time, actually, that featured a young woman named Connie de la Vega. I was originally inspired to write about Connie for the Brave New Girls anthology series, which is a series edited by Paige Daniels and Mary Fan, which are about young women doing science, basically. The Brave New Girls anthologies are all charity anthologies. All the money is given to the Society of Women Engineers. And so I created the character of Connie de la Vega, who lives on the moon in the nearish future. Because I thought it would be a cool thing to do. And I really liked the character, and I wound up doing another story with her called The Puzzle, which appeared in Footprints in the Stars, which was published by Eastbeck Books, and which came out, as I said, at the exact same time as Footprints in the Brave New Girls anthology that I was in. The subtitle of that one was Adventures of Gals and Gizmos. And they both debuted at the Shore Leave Convention in 2019. So that was kind of cool to have both Connie stories come out at once. Due to a viewer request, I am reading The Puzzle for this one because one of my viewers asked for it. And so here we are with The Puzzle by Keith R.A. DeCandido. Okay, people, here's the story. Michaela Kralnova spoke to all the assorted engineers and technicians in her employ assembled in the meeting room. LES has finally cleared the spire after the meteor strike yesterday, so the repair crews can go in. That means us. Sitting between an engineer and a technician, engineer in training Consuela de la Vega clutched a mug of the terrible coffee that Michaela provided for staff meetings. Normally, these meetings were held a few hours later, but time was of the essence. And with the spire out, nobody's phone was working. So Afeo Akingola, one of the engineers, had come to Connie's bunk to fetch her physically rather than calling her in. She, in turn, had been asked to do the same for 4 other employees until they were all together. Tsukuyomi has assigned us to fix the antenna, Michaela said, referring to the company that owned the spire, as well as the dome in which they all lived and worked. I have to say, this is a coup for us. That's the most important part of the spire, and we get to fix it instead of Konshu or one of the other companies. I'm putting Engineer Akingola in charge of the specific repair schedule and assignments, but every single one of you will be working. Trust me, this job is big enough to warrant it. The antenna is big enough, the technician next to Connie muttered. Connie hadn't actually been asleep when Afeo came to get her, as she'd been working on her homework. Michaela was paying for her long overdue certifications to be an engineer instead of a technician. She had the ability, but not the paperwork. That cost money. But Michaela was willing to cover the cost as long as she committed to continue working for Kralnova Fine Repairs. The problem was that she was still working for Kralnova, and they'd all been working overtime thanks to all the meteor strikes. The one on the spire was the worst. It had severely curtailed lunar communications and completely cut off all communications traffic off the moon. They had no means to send a message to Earth, or the asteroid belt, or the Mars base, or to any ships or satellites, and no means to receive anything sent from any of them. But repairs couldn't even be started until Lunar Emergency Services gave word that all the personnel on the spire were evacuated and being treated, and that it was structurally sound enough for the repair teams to go and do their jobs. The good news, Michaela continued, is that our internal links are working again thanks to Engineer Bresci and Technician Shu. So check your pads for assignments. Connie set her coffee down on the floor by her feet and pulled her pad out of her pocket. It had crashed, so she had to wait for the startup sequence to run before seeing that Akingola had assigned her to assist Allison Stein with repairing the lower junctions. Let's get moving, people, Michaela said, clapping her hands, and everyone got up. There's a shuttle that will take us to the spire, so follow me out. As everyone filed toward the exit, Connie went to Afeo. Why did you team me up with Allison? I can do those repairs, or she can. It doesn't need 2 of us. You're an engineer in training, Afeo said, and this is too important for us to screw up. As far as I'm concerned, you're a tech for this job. Connie swallowed her objections. She'd spent her entire time at Kralnova being told she was just a tech and shouldn't try to do the engineer's job. That she was an engineer trainee, due to her great skill, had done nothing to slow that down. But she also knew better than to object to someone who still outranked her in the corporate structure. Afeo went on. Also, it does need 2 people just for speed. There's 74 lower junctions, and they all need to be checked, repaired, and tested. Okay, Connie said with a sigh. She couldn't deny that particular truth. The moon was completely cut off from outside contact and had its inside contact compromised. Speed was more important than anything right now. The nice thing was that Allison didn't share Afeo's bias against Connie's abilities. The lower junctions were all in a circle around the base of the antenna. And once they arrived at that spot, Allison said, "Look, this is going to take forever as it is. I'll start here and work my way clockwise. You go counterclockwise, and we'll be done when we meet back up." Connie nodded, relieved. "Figure we can cover this in 3 hours?" Shrugging, Connie said, "Maybe. I mean, we haven't seen the damage yet, so it's hard to tell." They divided up the bag of replacement parts and started on the repairs. The first 2 junctions simply had parts that were damaged by the meteor strike and needed to be replaced. Connie did that and tested them. The third was all clear, but the fourth had not just damaged parts, but also frayed wiring. That wasn't from the meteor strike, that was just maintenance that needed doing, but Connie couldn't just let it go. She stripped the frayed wires and replaced them with new insulation. As she went, she kept finding tiny objects. At first she thought they were just debris, but after the 5th one, she realized that they were all faceted. After the 10th one, she looked more closely to see that they were all octagonal. By the time she was through 21 of the roughly 37 junctions she was responsible for repairing, she'd collected 20 of the tiny octagons. She was getting thirsty, and she was ahead of schedule. It had only been an hour, and she was more than halfway done. She took a break for some water and a quick snack. After choking down a Zoaran bar, it tasted like sawdust, but it fit in the pocket of her jumpsuit, was dirt cheap, and it contained a full meal's worth of nutrients, she washed it down with some water from her canteen. Then, on a whim, she picked up one of the octagons, held it in her palm, and poured a bit of water onto it just to remove the dust and dirt. As the liquid cascaded down onto her palm, the gunk of space sluiced off, revealing that each of the 8 sides was a different color. One was red, one pink, one orange, one maroon, one purple, one blue, one turquoise, and one teal. Pocketing the clean octagon with all the still dirty ones, she got back to work. By the time she linked back up with Allison, she had completed repairs on 42 junctions. "Nice work," Allison said as she finished off her 32nd. "I had 3 that needed complete replacement. That's why it took so long." Connie swallowed. She decided not to tell Allison that she had 5 such junctions and still got more done in the time than Allison did. Instead, she asked, "Hey, you find anything like this?" She pulled a couple octagons out of her pocket. "Yeah, a ton. I tossed them into the waste bag. You kept them?" Allison chuckled. Shrugging, embarrassed, Connie said, "I think they're nice." "Well, whatever. Sorry I didn't save them for you." "That's okay." After they finished their work, they climbed down the scaffolding to the base of the spire and reported to Michaela in person, as their phones still weren't working. "Good work, you two," Michaela said, consulting her pad. "Allison, they need another engineer at the top level. That's it, though. Everyone else is going along nicely. Connie, you can go home and get some rest. We'll be back to our usual routine tomorrow." Connie frowned, recalling her original schedule for today before the meteor strike on the spire sent everything into chaos. "If you don't need me here, I can go do the Sonnesdottir job." Michaela blinked. She shook her head. "Honestly, we told all our clients that everything's on hold until the spire's fixed, but we're on schedule, so..." She smiled. "Yeah, sure. Thank you, Connie. That's very thoughtful. You sure you don't want more sleep?" "I'm fine." She was still running on adrenaline from all the work, and she wouldn't be ready for sleep for several more hours. And the Sonnesdottir job was a simple repair of a cooling unit. "Okay, get over there then." Connie finished the Sonnesdottir job in an hour. This pleased Olga and Marcus Sonnesdottir no end, as they had expected their storage facility to remain sweltering for another day after the spire was damaged. They even tipped her for her time, something she had rarely experienced. Once that was done, she went back to her bunk. All Connie could afford was a spot in Quick Bunk, a facility that held 500 bunks, 2 meters long by 1 meter high by 1 meter wide. She used the same bathroom that 25 other units used. The bunk itself was private, if small, and also comfortable as long as you didn't sit up too fast. She crashed as soon as she got back from Daughter, the all-nighter combined with doing 2 jobs exhausting her. When she awakened, she pulled the octagons out of her pockets. The one clean one was dusty again, thanks to sharing a pocket with the others, and she decided to head to the communal bathroom and wash them all. As she clambered out of her bunk and climbed down the ladder to the floor, she frowned. Something seemed off. Once she jumped down the last meter to the floor, she examined the semi-clean octagon again. The colors were the same, but they were in a different sequence. She could swear that the red one was surrounded by the maroon, orange, pink, and purple, yet now the 4 sides adjoining the red side were turquoise, teal, blue, and orange. Instinctively, Connie thought, I must have misremembered. As she went to the large communal bathroom at the end of the hall, she reconsidered that reflexive belief, honed over most of her short lifetime, that she was likely mistaken. It was getting away from that mindset that brought her to the moon in the first place, and it was being beaten down by that mindset that kept her an overqualified tech for so long. She was an engineer in training, damn it, and the colors had changed. Upon arriving in the bathroom, she nodded to those going out and the one person by the sink. As Connie rinsed the octagons, a voice came from behind her. Hey, Connie, shouldn't you be out fixing the spire? It was Raisa Slavashevich, who had the bunk beneath Connie's and who was stepping out of the shower. A janitor at the Lunar Academy. She'd been working nights lately, so she was probably just getting ready to start her shift. As Raisa toweled herself off, Connie said, "Oh, we got our part of it done, so Michael let me come home." Okay. Raisa wrapped the towel around her chest and came over to peer at what Connie was doing. What the heck are they? Some objects I found in the spire, probably from the meteor. Raisa watched as Connie patted the octagons dry. They all had a similar color pattern to the first, though the colors themselves varied from octagon to octagon. Some were brighter, some duller, some darker, some lighter, but no 2 were alike. Damn, now I wish I had asked Allison to dig hers out of the trash. Smiling, Raisa said, "You can put them on your mantelpiece, if you ever get the mantelpiece." "Once I get my certs." Connie smiled right back. She had promised Raisa that once she got her certification as an engineer, and the concomitant pay raise that would come with her promotion from trainee, they would get an apartment together. The next day, after Connie came home from work, which involved a certain amount of overtime, as all the old jobs they'd put off because of the spire repair now had to be done, along with all the new jobs that had come in, she noticed something odd. The octagons all had different color patterns. Some were subtle, some were obvious, but all of them had different patterns. Even as she noticed the changes, she started to doubt them. They can't have changed. They're just rocks, just debris. I'm probably imagining it. Again, she forced that thought away. She wasn't stupid, but she was tired. Even with Michaela sending her home early yesterday, she had been working her ass off for the past few days with all the emergency jobs thanks to the meteor strikes, of which the spire was just the worst, piled on top of the usual gigs and her homework. So fine, let's experiment. First, she arranged the octagons into groups. 7 on one end of the bunk, 7 on the other end, and the remaining 6 in the middle. The phones were all back online with the spire working again, so she held up a fist so the ring could take a picture. She got images of each of the 3 sets. She left them there and went to work. That night, all 20 octagons were right where she left them, but the color patterns, once again, changed. Some were just in a different order, like the first one she'd noticed yesterday, while others had a totally different color set. Digging into her toolkit, she found her Abdallah EM17 scanner and ran it over the octagons. The Abdallah's display informed her that they were crystalline rock. No electronic parts, no unnatural elements, just stuff you expected to find in a piece of rock that flew through space. Connie could hear Raisa opening the privacy door in the bunk beneath hers, probably heading out to shower before her night shift. Connie slid open her own door and said, "Hey!" Raisa was, in fact, wearing a bathrobe and carrying her towel and toiletries. "Hey yourself. What's the name of that geology professor that's always nice to you?" "You mean Professor Usanga?" "Yeah. You think you can get me a meeting with him?" Professor Kimani Usanga agreed to meet with Connie the following evening. He had a late lecture and met her at his office afterward when Connie was off work. "So," he said as he ran his hand over his bald pate, "you say these are items you found in a meteor?" Not exactly. I worked for Cradle Fine Repairs. We were working on fixing the spire after the meteor hit it." "So there's no proof," he said, "that these are from the meteor at all?" I guess. I just know they aren't part of the spire, and I found them... "The important part of science," Usanga said as he started to walk back and forth in front of his desk, "is not to guess. We are rigorous in our desire to learn facts, not make suppositions." Connie sighed. "I know that, Professor. That's why I tested my assumptions." She showed him the before and after pictures from her phone. "These pictures were taken in my bunk, 10 hours apart." Usanga looked at the two pictures that hovered over Connie's ring, then let out a hissing sound between his teeth. "That is not scientific rigor, Ms. Della Vega. Someone could have entered your bunk and rearranged the octagons." Connie tried very hard not to roll her eyes at the professor. There were all of 3 people on the entire moon who knew, or cared, where she lived. Raisa, Michaela, and Afeo. Plus, the privacy door had a biolock that could only be unsealed by Connie herself. However, Usanga had more to say, which he did while continuing to rub the top of his head. "It's also possible that the rocks reflect light differently, or that you imagined it and your phone is subject to variations in light sources, or that they are not just meteor debris, but devices that were created by someone to be colorful." "It's not. I scanned it." "With what?" "An Abdallah, an EM-17. Again, Usanga ran his hand over his pate. Decent tool. Still, there are simply too many variables for this to be remarkable." "Then why did you agree to see me?" Connie tried very hard not to sound defensive as she asked that. Shrugging, Usanga said, "I like Miss Lavashevich. The support staff is often underappreciated, and I like to overappreciate the hard work they do. She said you were her friend, and out of respect for her, I was willing to see you. Now, out of that respect, I will take a few of these samples and perform tests when the opportunity presents itself." With a sigh, Connie gave over 5 of the octagons. She sure as hell wasn't going to give him all of them, especially since she expected that he was going to toss them in a drawer and ignore them. She went back home to her bunk and looked at the 15 she had left, spreading them out on the bed. On a whim, she arranged them in a circle on one end of the bunk, and then used her phone to take another image. Then she went to sleep. The octagons were in the same circle when her phone woke her up the next morning, but the colors were different. Leaving them there, she reported to work, where things had begun to return to normal. It was the easiest day she'd had in a while. In the morning, she worked alone, repairing a pair of Vandenberg's lunar scooters. Vandenbergs were temperamental, but they were easy to fix, and they were workhorses, the best for navigating the rough surface of the moon outside the dome. Then after that was done, and she had lunch, Michaela paired her again with Allison and another tech to fix a Melendez A12 generator that had suffered a catastrophic failure. When she got back to her bunk, after they got the Melendez up and running, the colors of the octagons had changed again. Sure enough, the next morning, when she woke up, they were again different. Now she had 4 different images of the octagons, with different color patterns. She called each up on the display over her ring next to each other. Staring at it for several seconds, she started to see the beginnings of several patterns, but none of them were complete. Either they didn't apply to one of the circles, or they were unfinished somehow. I'm probably trying to find something that isn't there. Pulling out her pad, she saw that there had been a deposit to her account from Cradle Fine Repairs. Attached to the deposit was a note. "Here's your share of the bonus we received from Tsukuyomi." Connie went to work in a good mood that morning. With this bonus, she could actually buy food other than Instameals and Zwarin bars. Maybe even something that had flavor. She called Raisa as she sat on the tram that took her to the office. "Hey, you're off tonight, right?" Yeah, why? Want to get together? Let's go to Fontana Rosa's. We can't afford that. I can. She told Raisa about the bonus. Hot damn! Raisa let out a whoop. About time you got one of those. After hanging up, she looked at the pay note again and saw that there was a label attached to the payment. Technician's bonus. She sighed. Even though she was a trainee engineer, even though the work she did on the Spire was an engineer's work, and in fact she did it better and faster than the engineer she was paired with, she still got paid like a tech. Nevertheless, they had a luxurious meal at Fontana Rosa's, a fantastic Italian-Cuban restaurant located on the east end of the dome. Besides excellent food, the place also had a picture window with a view of Mare Vaporum. So how'd it go with Professor Usanga? Connie sighed. Not great. He didn't think there was anything to it. Raisa frowned. I'm sorry. He seems so nice. Oh, he was nice, but dismissive. She shrugged. I'm used to it. And there isn't that much to go on anyhow. Belly full of mofongo parmesan, Connie crawled into her bunk after dinner to see that the octagons had yet another color scheme. Wait a minute. There was a pattern and she was sure of it. She took a picture with her phone and then put all 5 side by side. Then she got rid of the first one she took. That's it. She called Usanga and got his mailbox. Professor, this is Connie de la Vega, Raisa's friend. I finally figured out the pattern to the colors. Once they're arranged in a particular way and orange moved, they start to change colors based on the visible spectrum. The sides of the octagon facing outward are all in sequence based on how they're arranged, going from red to violet, and they keep shifting each time they're observed. I think it might be a form of communication. I'm appending the images I've taken so you can see. The message sent, she went to sleep. She awakened the next morning to her phone alerting her to a message from Usanga. Thank you for your call, Miss de la Vega, but I truly believe that you are wasting your time and mine. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but your efforts would be better spent on your studies and your work, not a fruitless attempt to find patterns that are not present. Connie sighed. She really thought this pattern was for real. Maybe I am looking for something that isn't there. Usanga also had a point about her studies. She'd been letting her engineering certification classes slide the last couple of days, as what little spare time she'd had been spent either working or having an extravagant dinner with Raisa. She needed to focus on what was important, which was getting her certification, so she could get paid an engineer's rate for the work she'd been doing all along. One week later, Connie was sitting outside Fontana Rosa's. Raisa had gotten a raise, and she offered to take Connie out to dinner in return for the meal Connie had bought 7 days previous. A holo was showing the Lunar News Service. In other news, has the Lunar Academy found evidence of life on other planets? We go now to Christopher Tseng at the Academy. The image switched from a newsreader standing in the middle of the street to a short man standing next to Professor Usanga. Oh, hell no. Angry, she sat up and watched the holo. I'm here with Professor Kamani Usanga of the Lunar Academy Geology Department, and he has an amazing discovery. Professor? Thank you, Mr. Tseng. Yes, we have made an amazing breakthrough. The meteors that have struck our fair moon low this recent week have revealed items that we are now sure come from an alien intelligence. Then he held up one of Connie's octagons. This is one of dozens of crystalline rocks that have been discovered in meteor debris. Most were thrown away by careless engineers and repair technicians, though a few were able to scrape together the wherewithal to save them, and thank heavens they did. The samples have all shown color patterns that are clear mathematical progressions based on the visible color spectrum. This cannot be a natural phenomenon. There has to be an intelligence behind it, and all that is required now is that we figure out where it came from. I've already spoken with the personnel in Star Core 5 and at Arecibo on Earth to try to determine where the meteors that have struck the moon have come from. We will find out what is behind this, and where this intelligence lies. That is an amazing find, Professor. I assume you'll be at the vanguard of the exploration of this find? Usanga chuckled and ran his hand over his head. Let us not get ahead of ourselves. For now, let us see where this discovery of mine leads us. That bastard. Connie looked over to see Raisa approaching. Yeah, well. No, not yeah, well. He is taking credit for your discovery. He's also got the resources to actually figure out what it is, which is why I wanted to talk to him in the first place. She sighed. Would have been nice if he wasn't a complete jerk about it. I'm telling you right now, I'm forgetting to throw out his trash. And I'm making sure his floor gets cleaned before I change out the filter. Connie smiled. Thanks, Raisa. I'm sorry I introduced you to him. I'm not. She shrugged. I'm just a trainee engineer who lives in a 2-meter bunk. He's a geology professor at a prestigious university. Of course he's the one who's going to actually figure it out and get to be on the news. It's the way it works. It's stupid, Raisa said. Forget it, Connie said. Let's eat. You can get Footprint in the Stars from any of your online retailers. If you get the ebook, it's only 99 cents. eSpec Books is having a pandemic sale, so all their ebooks are available for only $1. Or you can order the print book too. That works as well. One cool thing that eSpec does with their anthologies is on the first page there's places for all the authors to autograph it. So when conventions are a thing that happen again, you can bring those to conventions or bookstore signings or whatever and get us to sign it. Please check me out online. I'm at DeCandido.net. My blog is at DeCandido.wordpress.com. My Patreon is at patreon.com/crad. There's all sorts of nifty stuff in all those places. I post on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tor.com, where I write my Star Trek Voyager rewatch, all kinds of cool stuff. So please do seek me out. And please, stay safe. Thank you.